Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful Reedville neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We don't want you to miss an episode, so please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you find podcasts. We have a wonderful guest for you today. She is the photo illustrator of RAD Girl Revolution. Her name is Jennifer Bruno. Hey, for all the authors that are listening out there, I wanted to share with you this great email that we received here at the Reading with Your Kids podcast from Dr. Linda Mubarak. She is a past guest and the author of Maxine's New Job. Here's the email. Dear Fatima and Jed, good news! Maxine's New Job has been nominated to receive the prestigious Henri Award at the 2018 Christian Literacy Awards for Outstanding Literacy Work in the Children's Book Division. I sincerely believe your certifying Maxine as a great read helped bring increased social media attention to the book. Thank you for the exposure and the great marketing. We are so happy for Dr. Linda Mubarak that her book, Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, Maxine's New Job, received this prestigious recognition. We would love to help your book receive that same kind of recognition. If you are interested in having your book considered for our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program, please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can click on the contact button, send us a note, and we'll send all the information back to you, or you can go right to our Certified Great Read page on our website. It's fun, it's easy, and it is really an effective way to let the world know that your book stands out above all the rest. The Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. Joining us on the line right now from beautiful Queens in New York City, she is the photo illustrator and co-author of a really important book. It really is an important book called RAD Girl Revolution, a children's book for little girls who dream big. Please welcome to the show, Jennifer Bruno. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Jedley. It's great to be here.
I'm really excited about this, and I really do think that this is an important book because I think it's very important that we empower all of our kids, and especially our young girls, and letting them know that they can do anything they want to do with their lives.
Thank you. Yes, we are so passionate about being able to show children what what possibilities they can have for their future that they may not sometimes consider. Society is as much progress as we've made in society. There are still those gaps where there's so much of that what you see is that gender specific in so many fields, and we wanted to kind of battle that and show children at such a young age that doesn't have to be the future for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the book, you feature it's a very different kind of a picture book because it's not a traditional children's picture book, and it's not a photo book because it's kind of like a hybrid. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, we call actually my role in the book the photo illustrator because I am a photographer by trade, and I took the pictures, but we wanted to create a little bit of fantasy. So we wanted to kind of blur the line a little bit from just a standard portrait photo and also not have it be all the way quite to something that looked completely illustrated. So we did a little bit of back-end editing to try to create real fantasy, I guess, if you would call it that, out of the pictures, to just create a little bit more interest visually for children.
Yeah. Now, in the book, you feature, I believe, you kids from every different race and ethnicity, and also with differences, different abilities. Tell us some of the different occupations we'll be seeing kids portrayed in RAD Girl Revolution.
So the book has 30 different occupations, most of which are typically underrepresented by women. What we have done is photograph real little girls and we also have a few boys photographed as well, although they are not they're not typically doing the job necessarily in the photo. But in the jobs that we've selected have been things that are things like police officer, fire, astronaut, CEO, pilot, paleontologist, even president, things like that. I think if you were to just kind of take a quick thought about that job, a woman in that role may not be what pops to the forefront of most children's minds.
I'm happy to say that, and I agree that we need to encourage our girls. From what was the thought back when I was a 4 or 5 year old to now, I mean, it's very, very, to see a woman police officer or firefighter when I was 4 or 5 was unheard of. And now, thankfully, we do see women in those roles. And so that's really, really important. Why do you think it was, and it was a choice that you folks made, why is it, in your mind, important for the kids reading this book to actually see actual photographs in kids? They are, kind of like photo illustrations. But why do you think it was important for kids to actually see a photo of a real live person as opposed to a straight illustration?
Well, I think that RAD Girl Revolution, we are in such great company, and our book is out at a time where empowerment books are so important. I always get so excited anytime I walk into a bookstore or to a Target and I see displays of books that are girl-centered or equality-centered. Where I believe we are able to stand out is a lot of the books that we see now are focusing on these incredible trailblazers of the past, and we wanted to show girls the reality of them being in it, not necessarily following in the footsteps of the trailblazers, but seeing that it was a real solid possibility for them to attain whatever goal they wanted. And we believed that using photographs of real children would be one extra way that we would be able to make that a reality.
Now, one of the things when you're creating something, you make all these choices, and every choice has I don't know if consequence is a word, but certainly when you chose to use actual living models, that was a choice that certainly made your job probably more fun in some ways, but also more challenging because photographing 4, 5, and 6-year-old kids, whatever gender they are, can be a lot of work. How did you select some of your models? And tell us some of the experiences that happened while you were photographing the kids.
Well, logistically speaking, we were, I'll just kind of go back a little bit. We were very lucky to be able to snag some of the photo shoot locations that we did. Some of the businesses and the museums that we worked with were so gracious with allowing us to do it, but we had certain time constraints that we had to utilize. It's a 30-minute slot to get into a Manhattan courtroom and make this photo happen, and it was a situation where I couldn't go in beforehand and realize what the lighting scenario was. We're also dealing with children who are 2 to 8 years old, and they get sick a lot. So we would have models in place to go to these shoots, and things would happen, and we'd have to scramble to find other models to go into those spots. And I bring that up because that put us in a position where we were photographing 2-year-olds in some cases, and 2-year-olds might possibly be my favorite age of all time. They are not, however, the easiest children in the world to photograph. So we knew that we were going into some of those photo shoots with a little bit of a challenge. But what actually ended up happening really in every single case, and oftentimes people will ask me what my favorite photos are in the book, and it's so hard for me to pick because I feel pride about the photos in different ways. Some of the times being that I know we had literally minutes to get this shot with a 2-year-old child, and she gave us the best of herself. And so in that way, every photo shoot was more inspiring than the last, because we would put these girls in costumes. They would be able to role play. In some cases, they understood what they were role playing. In some cases, they had no idea. But through my lens, I have this unique perspective to kind of watch them go into a situation where they're maybe not quite so comfortable. Then they grow a little more comfortable. And then by the time it's over, not only are they comfortable, they're incredibly empowered. They don't want to take off their costume. And they also now want to grow up and be whatever that job is. So it was extremely rewarding in that way. We had one little girl who showed up for a photo shoot, and her mother kind of pulled me to the side, and she said, "Oh, I hope this goes okay. She's not really excited about the job, and that's not what she wants to be. And so I hope she participates." And the mother's worry was for not, because she was incredible and she did such an amazing job. But the most rewarding part of that at the end was that she had then changed her mind. I would like to be this when I grow up. And she was so excited about that particular job. So that in of itself for Sharita and I both was like, this is why we're doing this. This is so, it's such a reward we didn't realize we were going to receive.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, did any kids come to the photo shoots going, "No, I want to do her job with the camera. That's what I want to do"?
You know, that's actually kind of a trick that, I mean, probably any photographer that you talk to would say. You photograph children, that's something that you get used to doing. You have a very strong grip on your camera, but you let the children explore it in whatever way they want. So we did get that a lot. And sometimes if they were a little nervous, they'd have to take my photo a couple of times to warm up and understand what they were doing. Or if they brought siblings to the shoots, sometimes that would happen as well. So yes, that's definitely a common thing for them to get their hands on the equipment.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about, and kind of get into the psychology of photos as opposed to illustrations. You know, we picture books are always a beautiful fantasy illustrations. We talked a little bit about it before, but I agree with you that the kids are really fascinated looking at photos and at other people. I think kids have this fascination with other people. And I think it's a stronger fascination than they would have with the most beautiful illustration in the world. That it's just not that kids can like the pictures and that's great, but they really kind of zone in on the photos. I had my wife and I went down to Panama, and on the way back we were stuck in Miami airport for 5 or 6 hours. When I was 5 or 6 gate changes, and then there was a terminal change. I don't know how many hours, probably a lot more. But anyways, after our first gate change, we noticed at the first gate that there was this woman with a tiny little baby and a 4-year-old. And she was by herself, and she had suitcases. And both my wife and I, my wife being a teacher and we're both parents, were saying, "Wow, that's really tough. You know, I wonder, who left her there." And then when we got to the other gate, when it changed, we noticed that, oh, she's with us, so she's going to be on the plane. And then we realized that she was by herself. And so she was juggling the luggage and the infant and the 3-year-old by herself. So we said, "Oh, let's help, we can walk your 3-year-old. And, but after the 5th or 6th hour, understandably, the 3-year-old was getting, I'm tired of moving around the airport. I want to go home. I want to go to sleep. And we felt really bad, and the mom was getting frustrated. And finally, I just took out my phone and I said, "Can I show you pictures of my family?" And he was mesmerized for over an hour just looking at the different people he never saw before. And they weren't kids. My kids are grown. He loved pictures of my dog, but that just fascinated him. And so, as a photographer, as a photo illustrator, this must be something that you experience. Can you kind of get into why you think that is, why kids have such a strong connection with photographs?
Yes. So I have a little boy. He is 6 years old, and, I remember, of course, as all children, he was obsessed with certain books, and we read them 5 gabillion times over, and he would never get enough of them. But the phase that sticks out so much to me was the part of, and I don't even remember the age now, but when he was so interested in reading, I think they're books from DK Publishing, where they have the pictures, and you say, point to the ball, where's the ball on the page, or point to the flower, where's the flower, what color is the flower? So it's kind of when their speech is emerging. And I remember at that point thinking, I don't understand why there aren't more books that use real children, because he was so completely into the photographic part of it. And when he was growing up, one of the huge things for us was that, because I'm a photographer, I have plenty of photos around everywhere. And so we would make photo books of our family members, and he would just sit and comb through those photos over and over and over again. So I knew that was important. And then when I met Sharita, she sort of said the same thing. My children could look at books with pictures of real people all the time. And so for me, I think where it comes from is illustrators are so talented, and they can do so many things. But one thing that cannot always be replicated is real emotion. You can draw someone's mouth a specific way, or you can draw a twinkle in an eye, but it is a bit different when someone who is your age, if you're a 4-year-old looking at the book and you see a 4-year-old concentrating on something, you recognize that expression. That expression is something that you see your peers at play dates or play group or preschool. And I think the conversations that come from reading books with real pictures of other children are so rich because of the fact that the child is not necessarily focused on, the colors or the scenery, but the children are trying to kind of unwrap in their own brains what's going through the brain of the child that they're looking at. Or, we get a lot of times, like when I'm reading this book to other people, like, what was she looking at, or what was she smiling about, or what was she thinking about? And that is, I think, something that just is that goes a little step above a typical illustration, and that's what we were hoping for, and I think that it's worked out that way, just based on the readings that we've done with other kids, and I think that it's just an additional item to study for them.
Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of creating family photo books. I think that can be so much fun and such a great way to kind of share family history and to introduce kids to members of the family that aren't still with us.
Right.
I know my daughter never had a chance to meet my grandmother or my father, but she can tell you a lot about them, and and she can speak about them as if she had spent time with them.
Had a lot of experience. Yes, no, I completely agree. It started with my son when he was really young, and still at 6, those are very important books that he goes back and talks about and tells stories about, and so I agree.
Yeah. And one thing too, in your book, you, as I said, you featured kids of every different race and ethnicity, and of also different ability levels, and kids facing different challenges. Why was that important for your models with special needs to be able to see the model with the hearing aid in place or the other devices in place? Why was that an important choice for you?
It's so important to both Sharita and I that all little girls are able to, or all children in general, are able to see themselves represented on the pages in the books that sit on their bookshelves. And I believe that, especially now working with models that have special needs, models with autism or models with type 1 diabetes, those girls don't see themselves represented very often. And I know, their families and also the little girls who are a little bit older and had a greater understanding of kind of what they were posing for the book. I know how proud they feel to be able to represent that, because it wasn't represented for them before. So we made very conscious decisions when we chose some of our models that we wanted to make sure that we had a model with type 1 diabetes, and we wanted to pose her so that you were able to see the Omnipod on her book, so that all of the children with type 1 diabetes that pick up our book can not only see that normalized, but also see that they are not limited in their choices for career based on what sort of disability that they may have. We have a model with Down syndrome, and she has been such an incredible inspiration. I mean, all of the girls in the book are outstanding, of course, but she's been such an incredible inspiration to her community. But also, I will say, a very educational experience for me and my own child in just being able to embark on the conversations about children with special needs. You can't, society will only provide you with so much. You may not have a neighbor or a child in your class that has a special need that fits, that checks every box. And so being able to have those conversations with our children, or we're tucking them into bed or whatever, I think just kind of helps expand their knowledge, their comfort with other people, their level of empathy, and more importantly, the inclusion of all people.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. I created we spoke about it on the podcast in the past. I created a video back in 1989 called Melt Down the Walls That Separate. And in that video tells the story of, in a really fun kind of magical way, tells the story of a program that we put together that gave kids with severe developmental disabilities opportunities to develop real friendships with quote unquote typical kids. And I remember of course there were challenges and whatnot, but some of the biggest challenges were from folks in the less challenged community. So my kids had the severe developmental disabilities, so they couldn't walk, they couldn't talk, they needed help with everything. And so folks, representatives from the deaf community, representatives from the blind community, they would say, no, we don't want these kids the public to see these kids. And I would be amazed and say, why? It just, having empathy for these kids elevates empathy for everyone. They go, no. Then people will just assume that because I'm deaf that I'll be at the same level as these kids. And because and I'm so happy that we've kind of grown from that spot and that we're really looking to, just help everybody feel part of our community and help all of us kind of relate better to everybody, no matter what their ability levels are.
I agree. And I think that, that we did not encounter this at all with our book, but my gratitude toward anybody who's dealing with something, different than what I can relate to or different or knows something about something that maybe I don't know about, lives an experience that I don't live. I'm grateful for anybody who's willing to help enhance what I know, how I'm able to live. And so I can say for sure for the, our models and the parents of those girls, like I call them models, but I want to make it very clear. These are just normal, regular girls that do not have agents. And, they're little girls we know around the neighborhood and stuff like that. So when I say models, I don't mean professional models, but the parents of the girls that posed in our book have been so incredibly open with us and just overwhelmingly grateful that we've asked them to tell their story. And so I think it's opened up, I don't ever look at a book as reading, I would like to read this picture and the words on the page. I believe every book kind of I will just say it takes me a very long time to read a book because every page will kind of prompt another conversation about certain things, or it will prompt me to go to my library app and reserve another book about something kind of unrelated that has since become related. And so the possibility for all of us, for all of our children to know better and to do better comes from the exposure to things that we don't necessarily know a lot about. So I can't say enough about how grateful I am about the openness and willingness of all of our models, but especially those who have had special needs, and helping just kind of elevate the project for us in ways we can't even express.
Now, it's obvious. Well, it should be obvious for folks why you would want this book on your family library if you have little girls. But you're the mom of a little boy. Why do you think it's important to have RAD Girl Revolution in your family library?
You know, prior to having my son, I worked outside of the home. And since having my son, I've been a photographer. So as far as my son knows, I'm his stay-at-home mom who takes photos. You know, I don't believe that he probably sees me the same way that many children see, you know, their mothers going off to work, the ones who are not staying at home with their children all the time. My husband happens to be probably one of the strongest feminists that I know, and one of the biggest supporters of equality. So for both of us to raise our son to understand that gender roles don't apply is so important to us. However, because I am home and I am cooking a majority of our meals and doing I would say maybe a majority of our house cleaning, there are ways that we are fighting the gender stereotypes in other ways. And so to elevate girls or people who are marginalized or different from us is such a priority in our home. But on a broader scale outside of my home, I just can't imagine that there will ever be true equality in any way achieved if the marginalized people are the only ones who recognize that there is an inequality. And so to raise a little boy who recognizes that not only are girls just as qualified to hold jobs or positions of power as he is, I want him to also be able to demand that, to expect that, to encourage that, to applaud that. I think that he's as big a part of that equation. All our boys are as big a part of that equation as our little girls are. And telling our little girls they can do and be anything without telling our little boys the same message just makes that fight much harder than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Now, where can folks go, before we leave, where can folks go to find out more about RAD Girl Revolution, a children's book for little girls who dream big?
We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at RAD Girl Book. So you're able to find us there. We are also available in many local independent bookstores. So you can check your local independent bookstore for that. And we are also available on Amazon.
Awesome. We've been talking today to the photo illustrator of RAD Girl Revolution, a children's book for little girls who dream big, Jennifer Bruno. Jennifer, thanks so much for being part of our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jedley. I appreciate it very, very much.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Julie Rabini. Hey, please remember that we're looking for a few great schools, a few great libraries, a few great special events to host our all-new family experience that we're calling Reading with Your Kids Live. We're looking to celebrate our shared love of reading, of learning, with great storytelling, interactive magic, and lots of fun. You can learn more about this show by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com/live. Hey, we want to thank Jennifer Bruno for being here today. Check out RAD Girl Revolution, a great children's book for little girls who dream big. I also want to thank my producer, Fatima Khan, for everything she does to make this show so great. And of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell your friends about the show. When you see our posts on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, thank you so much for sharing those posts and retweeting us. And of course, most of all, thank you so much for making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.